Welcome to our exploration of international relations theories and the art of statecraft. In today's interconnected world, understanding how nations interact is more crucial than ever. International relations, or IR, is the study of how countries engage with one another, manage conflicts, and cooperate on global issues. This field helps us make sense of the complex web of alliances, rivalries, and negotiations that shape our world. Throughout this video, we'll break down the main theories of IR and see how they influence the strategies and decisions of states. Let's begin our journey into the fascinating world of global politics. Statecraft refers to the methods and tools leaders use to achieve their country's goals on the international stage. It's about more than just diplomacy. It includes economic policies, military strategies, and even cultural influence. Statecraft is the practical side of IR where theories are put into action. Leaders must constantly adapt their approaches based on changing circumstances, balancing power, interests, and values. As we move forward, keep in mind that statecraft is both an art and a science, requiring creativity, calculation, and a deep understanding of the global environment. One of the oldest and most influential theories in IR is realism. Realists believe that the international system is anarchic, meaning there's no central authority above states. In this environment, each country must look out for its own survival. Power and security are the main concerns, and states often compete for influence and resources. Realism explains why countries build strong militaries, form alliances, and sometimes go to war. It's a theory rooted in the idea that conflict is inevitable, but can be managed through careful strategy and balance of power. Liberalism offers a different perspective. Liberals argue that, while conflict exists, cooperation is possible and even necessary. They emphasize the role of international organizations, laws, and norms in promoting peace and stability. According to liberalism, states can work together to solve common problems like climate change, trade disputes, and human rights issues. This theory highlights the importance of diplomacy, economic ties, and shared values in building a more peaceful world. Constructivism brings a fresh approach by focusing on the power of ideas, beliefs, and identities. Constructivists argue that the way states see themselves and others shapes their behavior. For example, if two countries view each other as friends, they're more likely to cooperate. If they see each other as rivals, conflict is more likely. This theory shows that international politics isn't just about material power, it's also about perceptions, culture, and shared meaning. Marxism views international relations through the lens of economics and class struggle. Marxist theorists argue that global politics is driven by the interests of powerful economic classes in capitalist states. They focus on issues like exploitation, inequality, and imperialism. According to Marxism, the global system benefits wealthy countries and corporations at the expense of poorer nations. This perspective helps explain patterns of global inequality and the roots of many international conflicts. Feminist theories in IR highlight the role of gender in shaping global politics. Feminist scholars argue that traditional theories often overlook women's experiences and the impact of gendered power relations. They examine how war, peace, and diplomacy affect men and women differently, and how gendered assumptions influence policy decisions. By bringing gender into the conversation, feminism broadens our understanding of international relations and challenges us to consider new perspectives. English School blends elements of realism and liberalism, focusing on the idea of an international society. According to this theory, states are not just competitors but also members of a society with shared rules and institutions. The English School emphasizes the importance of diplomacy, international law, and the balance between order and justice. It helps explain why states often follow norms and cooperate, even in an anarchic system. Critical theory in IR questions the status quo and challenges dominant ideas and structures. Critical theorists ask whose interests are being served by existing systems and seek to uncover hidden power dynamics. They encourage us to think about how global politics could be transformed to promote greater justice and equality. This approach is less about offering fixed answers and more about opening up new ways of thinking about international relations. Postcolonialism examines how the legacy of colonialism continues to shape global politics. This theory highlights the perspectives and experiences of countries and peoples who were colonized. Postcolonial scholars argue that international relations often reflect the interests and values of former colonial powers, while marginalizing others. By listening to these voices, postcolonialism seeks to create a more inclusive and equitable understanding of world affairs. Diplomacy is a key tool of statecraft, allowing countries to communicate, negotiate, and resolve disputes peacefully. Through diplomacy, states build alliances, sign treaties, and manage crises. Skilled diplomats use persuasion, compromise, and sometimes secrecy to advance their nation's interests. In a world full of competing interests, diplomacy helps prevent conflicts and fosters cooperation. It's an essential practice for maintaining international order. Economic statecraft involves using economic tools to achieve foreign policy goals. This can include trade agreements, sanctions, aid, and investment. States may use economic incentives to reward allies or punish adversaries. Economic statecraft is powerful because it can influence other countries' behavior without resorting to force. However, it requires careful planning to avoid unintended consequences and maintain credibility. Military power remains a central element of statecraft. States maintain armed forces to defend themselves, deter threats, and project influence abroad. Military alliances such as NATO are formed to enhance collective security. While the use of force is sometimes necessary, it's often a last resort. Effective statecraft balances military strength with diplomacy and economic tools to achieve lasting security. Soft power is the ability to shape preferences and influence others through attraction rather than coercion. This includes cultural exports, values, and foreign aid. Countries like the United States use Hollywood, universities, and technology to project soft power. Soft power can build goodwill and open doors for cooperation, making it a valuable complement to traditional statecraft tools. International organizations like the United Nations, World Trade Organization, and International Monetary Fund play a major role in global governance. They provide forums for negotiation, set rules, and help resolve disputes. Membership in these organizations can enhance a state's influence and provide opportunities for cooperation. However, states must balance their own interests with the collective goals of the group. International law consists of rules and agreements that govern relations between states. Treaties, conventions, and customary practices form the backbone of this legal system. International law helps maintain order, protect human rights, and resolve conflicts. While enforcement can be challenging, respect for international law is essential for a stable and predictable global system. Balance of power is a key concept in IR, especially for realists. It refers to the distribution of power among states to prevent anyone from dominating. States may form alliances or build up their militaries to maintain balance. This strategy aims to deter aggression and preserve stability, but it can also lead to arms races and tension. Security dilemma describes a situation where one state's efforts to increase its security make others feel less secure. This can lead to an arms race as each side builds up its defenses. The security dilemma is a central challenge in international relations, making trust and communication vital for avoiding unnecessary conflict. National interest is the guiding principle behind a state's foreign policy. It includes security, economic prosperity, and the promotion of values. Leaders must constantly assess what is best for their country and make tough choices. The concept of national interest helps explain why states sometimes act alone and other times seek cooperation. Sovereignty means that states have the right to govern themselves without outside interference. It's a core principle of the international system. However, globalization and international norms sometimes challenge sovereignty, especially when it comes to human rights or environmental issues. Balancing sovereignty with global responsibilities is a constant challenge for leaders. Globalization refers to the increasing interconnectedness of countries through trade, communication, and technology. It creates new opportunities for cooperation but also new challenges, such as economic competition and the spread of crises. Globalization shapes the context in which statecraft is practiced, making international relations more complex and dynamic. Non-state actors like multinational corporations, NGOs, and terrorist groups play an increasingly important role in international relations. They can influence policy, provide aid, or pose security threats. States must adapt their strategies to deal with these actors, who often operate across borders and outside traditional frameworks. Foreign policy decisions are made through a complex process involving leaders, advisors, and institutions. Factors like public opinion, interest groups, and international events all play a role. Decision-making can be rational, but it's also influenced by emotions, biases, and domestic politics. Understanding this process helps explain why states sometimes act unpredictably. Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 is a classic example of statecraft and IR theories in action. The United States and Soviet Union came close to nuclear war over missiles in Cuba. Through careful diplomacy, military readiness, and back-channel communication, both sides managed to avoid disaster. This case highlights the importance of negotiation, deterrence, and crisis management. European Union is a unique experiment in regional integration. Member states have pooled sovereignty in areas like trade, law, and currency. The EU shows how liberalism and cooperation can create lasting peace and prosperity. However, it also faces challenges from nationalism and differing interests among members. United Nations was founded to promote peace and cooperation after World War II. It provides a forum for dialogue, peacekeeping missions, and humanitarian aid. While the UN has achieved many successes, it also faces criticism for bureaucracy and the influence of powerful states. The UN illustrates both the potential and limits of international organizations. China's rapid economic and military growth is reshaping global politics. Its rise challenges the existing balance of power and creates new opportunities and tensions. China's approach to statecraft includes economic investment, military modernization, and active participation in international organizations. Understanding China's strategies is key to understanding today's world. Middle East is a region marked by complex conflicts involving states, non-state actors, and outside powers. Issues like religion, resources, and historical rivalries fuel tensions. Statecraft in this region requires balancing alliances, managing crises, and addressing root causes. The Middle East illustrates the challenges of applying IR theories in practice. Climate change is a global challenge that requires international cooperation. States must work together to reduce emissions, adapt to impacts, and share technology. Climate diplomacy involves negotiation, scientific collaboration, and sometimes conflict over resources. Addressing climate change tests the limits of statecraft and the effectiveness of international institutions. Human rights have become a central issue in international relations. States and organizations work to promote and protect rights through treaties, advocacy, and sometimes intervention. However, there are often tensions between respecting sovereignty and addressing abuses. The human rights agenda shapes foreign policy and international law. Global health issues like pandemics require international cooperation and coordination. Organizations such as the World Health Organization lead efforts to monitor, prevent, and respond to health crises. Statecraft in this area involves sharing information, resources, and expertise. The COVID-19 pandemic showed both the strengths and weaknesses of global health governance. Spread of nuclear weapons is a major concern in international relations. Treaties like the Non-Proliferation Treaty aim to prevent new states from acquiring nuclear arms. Statecraft involves diplomacy, sanctions, and sometimes security guarantees. Managing nuclear risks requires trust, verification, and ongoing dialogue. Trade wars occur when countries impose tariffs or other barriers to protect their economies. These disputes can escalate and affect global markets. Statecraft in trade involves negotiation, retaliation, and sometimes compromise. Trade wars highlight the tensions between national interests and the benefits of open markets. Migration is a growing issue in international relations. People move across borders for safety, work, or opportunity. States must balance humanitarian concerns with security and economic interests. Migration can create tensions but also opportunities for cooperation and development. Effective statecraft seeks solutions that respect rights and address root causes. Cybersecurity is an emerging challenge in statecraft. States must protect their digital infrastructure from attacks by other countries or non-state actors. Cyber threats can disrupt economies, steal information, and undermine trust. International cooperation is essential for setting norms and responding to incidents. Sanctions are a tool of economic statecraft used to influence the behavior of other states. They can target individuals, companies, or entire economies. While sanctions can be effective, they also have humanitarian impacts and can provoke resistance. Successful sanctions require international support and clear objectives. Humanitarian intervention involves using force or aid to prevent suffering in other countries. It raises tough questions about sovereignty, legitimacy, and effectiveness. Interventions can save lives but also risk unintended consequences. Statecraft in this area requires balancing moral imperatives with practical realities. Peacekeeping missions are deployed to help maintain or restore peace in conflict zones. These operations often involve military, police, and civilian personnel. Peacekeeping requires consent from the parties involved and a clear mandate. Success depends on resources, local support, and international cooperation. Terrorism is a persistent threat in international relations. States must develop strategies to prevent attacks, disrupt networks, and address root causes. Counterterrorism involves intelligence sharing, law enforcement, and sometimes military action. Cooperation among states is essential for effective counterterrorism. Arctic is becoming a new arena for international competition as melting ice opens up resources and shipping routes. States like Russia, the US, and Canada are asserting claims. Arctic geopolitics involves environmental concerns, resource management, and security issues. Cooperation and competition coexist in this unique region. Space is an emerging domain in international relations. States are launching satellites, exploring planets, and developing new technologies. Space politics involves issues of security, cooperation, and competition. International agreements aim to prevent conflict and promote peaceful use of outer space. Global protests from the Arab Spring to climate marches show how people can influence international relations. Social movements challenge governments, raise awareness, and sometimes drive policy change. Statecraft must adapt to these new forms of activism, which can cross borders and mobilize support worldwide. Technology is transforming international relations. Innovations in communication, surveillance, and artificial intelligence create new opportunities and risks. States must adapt their strategies to harness technology while managing threats like cyber attacks and misinformation. The digital age is reshaping statecraft in profound ways. Populism and nationalism are reshaping politics in many countries. These movements emphasize national sovereignty and often challenge international cooperation. Populist leaders may withdraw from agreements or promote protectionist policies. Understanding these trends is essential for predicting changes in global politics. International relations and statecraft are constantly evolving. New challenges like climate change, technology, and shifting power dynamics require fresh thinking and innovative strategies. By understanding the main theories and tools of statecraft, we can better navigate the complexities of global politics. The future will demand cooperation, adaptability, and a willingness to learn from the past. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of international relations.